I have to think about this and deal with this pain. I've been dealing with this pain so long, and I don't think it'll ever go away. This truly was an accident, and if I could, I would trade places with my son in a heartbeat. I want to apologize to my family for having them to have to be here to see me experience and go through something like this. I feel like I'm living a nightmare. And I just want to appreciate them for supporting me, being there for me since day one, keeping me strong, family and friends. Today, Judge, Your Honor, I'm going to accept the time that you give me to become a better father, a better person, learn from my mistakes, get my education, become closer to God, and just prepare myself for when I'm released into the community, be a better person, and be successful in the future. I take responsibility for my action that led up to this. Never would I ever thought this would happen or wish this on anybody. Yeah, and I just want to apologize to my family having to put them through this. Your Honor.
That was well said, Derrick. You know, Derrick, Derrick, you're a good person. You know, you've got a family that supports you. And you want to be a good dad, and, you know, you're a child of God. You've got a lot of upside. And I'm kind of getting tired of so many really hard sentencings and saying what a sad case. Well, this one is about as sad as it gets because we're talking about a baby. You know, just before I came here today, over the noon hour, I found out that my brother's daughter just had a newborn daughter. And, which is a joy. Innocent and very vulnerable. And how old was the child? What was the name of the child?
He was the third. He was just named after me and my dad.
Yeah, Derrick Young the third, right?
Yeah,
And is about 1.5 years old.
that's her.
And you're right, no matter what, or your attorney's right, no matter what the court does here, it pales to losing a child, losing your own flesh and blood. But the court has to impose a sentence based on, Derrick, the factors that the community expects in any case. The seriousness of the offense, to protect the public, character of the offender. The other factors that the court can look at whenever it sentences anybody is deterrence, although I don't know how much deterrence. I mean, how much more deterrence do we need in drug cases? How much more? But also punishment.
Sir.
And you know, I've said this before, as my dad always said, the punishment has to fit the crime. And it is a lengthy prison sentence here. Now, Attorney Balskis did a good job explaining the history here. I had the Nygren case. And Nygren got 13 years. I mean, whatever the state recommended, she got 13 years initial confinement. Because she went back in with a co-defendant and provided this pregnant woman another dose of the drug, of meth. And you know, but that woman, she knew what she was doing, and she voluntarily ingested that. This is a 1.5-year-old child, the most innocent of victims. And you know, we talked about this case for months and months after it happened. If I was doing a search warrant or what, you know, just in passing. This is, you know, we have these commercials, all these political ads about people who've died because of fentanyl, and You know, it's a real problem. I just wish the public would understand it is a real problem. It is a poison that's killing this country. It's killing people all the time. Last year, what were there, 60 or so? I forget the number. People died of overdose deaths in this county. It was a large number. But this is the case that I remembered. A baby died because people had drugs laying around. You know, when you have kids, you grow up, you're always saying, you don't put anything dangerous near a child, right? That's what a parent does. So we can't undo the past, but I have to talk about some of this. When that search warrant was executed at 1426 South Baird, in November, they found cocaine, marijuana, almost $4,000, 1,031 oxycodone hydrochloride pills.
Here is how to be a video gamer forever in less than 60 seconds. Now hear me out. If you're anything like me, then
I applied to over 200 tech jobs and got rejected from every single one of them. And then
I mean, that's still a significant amount of drugs, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you bond it out. If you never bonded out, this never would have happened, and that child would be alive, right?
Yes, sir.
Then we find out what happened the day this child died. And on the floor of the bedroom, there was 2 pistols, a bag containing 9 bags that each contained 100 oxycodone pills. Then in the bedroom, they located cocaine, 130 oxycodone pills, again, almost $4,000 in cash. And the pills were determined to contain fentanyl. And then we look at Ms. Putzlocker's Facebook pages, and there's a photo. In one photo, victim 1 is holding up a handful of money. A child, I guess. And then in another, Mr. Young and Ms. Putzlocker are holding a large sum of currency fanned out. And the post stated, "Tobey, we in this together. If you got half, I got half. We can split whatever." That's the drug world, everybody. It's pretty sad. It's pretty disgusting, too. The toxicology report indicated the presence of fentanyl in the child's system. Illegal fentanyl was the contributing factor in Derrick Young III's death. We're talking about a baby that died of fentanyl. We are talking about a baby that died of fentanyl. It's the real world. And there's still people that don't take it seriously. And I'm being very measured in my comments because as a parent, as a brother, as a son, as someone who's lived in this community all these years, what the hell is going on? This stuff should not be here, but it's flooding. It's poison. You can talk about dangerous crimes or violent crimes. This is dangerous crimes where a 1-year-old child can die because they're exposed. They are exposed to poison. I mean, when you put a bunch of rat poison in front of a kid, no. Put a bunch of fentanyl pills all over the floor, you're not thinking about that, you're thinking about the cash. I know you didn't mean it, Derrick, but that's the saddest part is a dad protects their child, and you didn't even have much of a chance with everything that was going on with CPS, but what happened is instead of protecting the child, the environment killed the child. Now, to During the interview with Mr. Young, he admitted he was using and selling fentanyl at the time of his son's death. He and Ms. Putzlacher would smoke fentanyl in the apartment basement or in the apartment bathroom, still where the child's located. He acknowledged Ms. Putzlacher was aware he was selling drugs and had sold drugs from her apartment. He kept the fentanyl pills in the apartment closet, and if the child was exposed to fentanyl, there was no other explanation other than it being his pills. And I know you're accepting responsibility. Mr. Young acknowledged he used fentanyl before he arrived at Putzlacher's residence on May 3rd, 2022. You said that the child could have gotten to a pill. He reported he and Putzlacher never used fentanyl around the baby. They would use it in the bathroom, basement, or the car. I understand, but that's not taking care of a child. Well, I'm going to do drugs, but I'll do it in the bathroom outside the presence of the child. That doesn't cut it. And then, Derrick, you acknowledge that both you and Ms. Putzlacher continued to use fentanyl after your son died. This terrible, terrible loss, and you're still using it. You still didn't learn. Yes, it's addictive, I get it, but I mean, I'm going to accept the fact that this is a traumatic experience, but you kept doing the very thing that killed this baby after the baby died, right up until you were arrested. You know, your dad, hard worker, but you know, he had a drug issue. You said that your childhood, you had a good childhood. Your mom says you're loving, kind, honest, and helpful to others. Like so many other people that have a nice family, it's one bad friend that gets oftentimes somebody hooked on drugs. Here it was Percocet. Well, but no one does this. No one puts a gun to somebody's head. That's a decision every addict makes. At one point, they say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. It's on them. The agent had some significant comments here. After his arrest on November 4th, Derrick had choices to make. After you bonded out, Derrick, you had choices to make, but your choice was to continue to use and sell fentanyl with a child nearby. Those are the facts. That's what the court has to consider. That's how serious. I mean, is a homicide any more serious offense? A child is dead. Who didn't ask for this? Who didn't owe any drug money? Who didn't decide to get in a car with someone who was drunk? This is a child that was just being a baby.
I was seeing comments like it would be so much easier if there was an app and I could just stream it.
It's really challenging for a small business like ours.
Payroll, health benefits,
So just to summarize again, Mr. Young was found in the basement of his sister's residence with 1,000 fentanyl pills on November 4th, cocaine, marijuana, firearms, and a large sum of cash. His son and another young child he was caring for were located on the bed in the basement of that residence and could have had access to the drugs or the firearms on that day. He was arrested at that time, but bonded out a short time later. 6 months later, his son died as a result of having been exposed to fentanyl. And he acknowledged that both he and Ms. Putzlacher continued to abuse fentanyl at the time of his son's death. He may have found a pill. So what is the court supposed to do here? After the crime is so serious, the public has to be protected. Babies have to be protected. Children have to be protected. I could go on and bore people to death. How many search warrants have I signed where one pill, one fentanyl pill, killed a healthy teenager? Do people understand? So what happens when a child dies because of this? It is kind of a Len Bias case, but it's worse. Because Len Bias, in those cases, again, like Nigrin, the person made the decision to ingest the drugs, and the purpose of Len Bias is to penalize the person supplying the drugs. Kind of a cause and effect penalty. No, the court never likes to impose a long prison sentence, but we live in a society where people have to be held accountable. I pulled this book out. I haven't done it for a while, Beautiful Mercy. The court wants to be merciful, and I'm touched by Derrick's statement, Derrick, which is why I'm sincere when I say you have the potential, and you're going to be out, you're going to be a young man, less than half my age, you're going to have all kinds of opportunities. But one of the chapters here says, mercy without justice dishonors everybody. And when somebody does something, is reckless, not intentional, but is reckless, but still intentional to continue to engage in fentanyl use, then there has to be the appropriate response and the appropriate consequence. Now, the system has to be fair in how it treats people. So, Putzlacher, the mother, shame on her. What did she got, 10 years? Well, the court also has to look at the character of the offender. And I find a lot of good in Derrick, but character also talks about what you've done with your life, and you look at the past record. So here is Derrick's record, and where is that, is Putzlacher's record. Putzlacher apparently had a reckless driving, and that was it for her character. But what is Derrick's record? Robbery, battery, possession of THC, obstructing an officer, armed robbery, restrictive use of facsimile firearm, obstructing an officer, resisting, fleeing, taking and driving without owner's consent, possession of THC, second-degree sexual assault of a child, intimidation of victim, possession of THC as a second offense, possession with intent to deliver cocaine, possession of narcotic drugs. I didn't even read all of them. So see, that's the difference. She gets 10 years. He can't get 10 years. That would be unfair because he's got a record, right? I also pulled up Nygren's record. Nygren's record was about half a page. Possession of a narcotic drug, retail theft, and possession of THC. She got 13 years plus, I think, 21 years initial confinement, something along those lines. The court has to balance and consider everything. The bottom line is this. A young child died because someone made a choice to continue to engage in this same behavior. Derrick, when you were arrested in November, that should have been the wake-up call. And you know, yeah, there are other people that are doing fentanyl. There are other people that have probably more drugs, but it's kind of like drunk driving cases, isn't it? You can be all pissed up and driving. But if you don't hit anybody and you get stopped, or you pass out in your vehicle, you get the guidelines on a drunk driving case. But what if you're driving, maybe not all that drunk, but still under the influence, and you hit somebody and that person dies? Then it's a whole different penalty. And then we're talking significant prison because of misfortune, wrong place at the wrong time. So here you got the fentanyl pills, thousands of fentanyl pills, and a baby dies. So that's, the punishment has to fit the crime. But the state's asking for 15 years. I'm not going to impose that because Derrick, I find him to be sincere. I don't know what the defense would have been, but he pled out, he accepted some responsibility, and I think he was thinking about his family because they lost a nephew and a grandson. They lost the baby that my son and his family is going to treasure going forward, right? So the court will do the following here. And I think I can do this because the neglecting of a child where the consequence is death is a repeater. So in file 21 CF 1913, possession of firearm, it's 2 years initial confinement and 2 years extended supervision. And then count 3, possession with intent to deliver narcotics, 5 years initial confinement, and 5 years initial extended supervision. Count 6, possession with cocaine as a second and subsequent offense, 1 year initial confinement, 1 year extended supervision. That's what happened on November 4th of 21. That'll all be concurrent. And to make it simpler, I'm going to run 22 CF 1160 concurrent. The court will impose for the neglecting a child 13 years initial confinement and 10 years extended supervision, and that'll run concurrent with file 21 CF 1913.
Would you be interested in collecting 5-figure paychecks for a few hours of work, helping me in your spare time?
I met 2 beautiful girls at the beach yesterday, and they didn't know what I do for work.